Okay, so now we already come to our last speaker of this afternoon. Anuj Mohan works as Principal Enterprise Architect at Big River Steel and is a frequent contributor on the Oracle stage. He's a longtime Oracle expert. He's one of the Oracle Aces, and he holds several Oracle certifications. Anuj gives us a technical deep dive from Multitenant 12.1 to Multitenant 21C. Good to have you here, Anuj. I'm happy to hand over to you now.
Thanks, Pascal. Thanks for nice introduction. So can you please confirm if you can hear me and you can see my slides?
Yes.
Was that yes?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, perfect.
Everything perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks everyone for taking time and attending my session here. As I was just talking before starting that it's a 30-minute session. So usually I do these in 60 minutes, but when I saw that it's a 30-minute, then I trimmed down the slides. But if you want, so I'll not be running through all the slides. But if you want, I'll at the end I'll share my email address and maybe probably you can get through the conference also, so you can get the whole version of slides. And since it's a 30-minute call, let's get it going. And the idea behind this presentation is I should be able to give you a fair idea of what is multi-tenant, how it evolved from 12.1 to 21C, and what are the features available which we can use on. So this is the background, and and as I was introduced that I am an Oracle Ace, so this is a slide about Oracle Ace program. If you have any interest, you might want to check this link here and review the stuff. So it's a kind of a journey, because we are talking about how it started in 12.1, then we had more features introduced in 12.2, then 18C, 19C got some cool features. But the good news is we are not going to talk about each and every features here, but we will pick all the key features and as a DBA, I feel like which are really important for you to know as a DBA. Okay, so I hope all of you who are listening me has some idea of multi-tenant, and if not, then this slide will talk about it. So basically what multi-tenant is, you have a, so if you are still in 11G world and do not have an exposure of 12.1 multi-tenant architecture, what essentially it is, it gives you a capability to run a database inside a database. So you are running multiple databases within a database, and that in terms of terminology, you call the databases running inside as a pluggable database, and the main database which hosts these databases is called container database. Why you want to run it? That's all we're going to talk next 30 minutes. So, but this is a slide from Oracle, and it kind of talks about why you want to run it in just single slide. So I'll quickly explain you what it is. So the key benefits of using Oracle multi-tenant is that it's you can have you can have a database for each of your applications. So if you're doing if you've been in a process of consolidating your systems, and before the multi-tenant world, we've been consolidating as schema consolidation. So you create a schema for individual application, and you put but there were challenges, like if you have a public scenario. So they came up with this architecture, and that consolidation was one of the benefit, where you can easily consolidate without being challenged by public synonym or other security or other resource related issues. So the key benefits here is a self-contained PDB for each application. So application and if you're moving from 11G world to 12C, your application need not to be changed. You just need to figure out how to connect to pluggable databases. That's it. Rapid provisioning via clones and 12C release 1 pluggable database, they offer a really easy way to clone your databases. Portability via pluggability. So you can actually unplug and plug back these databases, and I'll show you in our following slides. The key benefit is that you are sharing memory and background processes across multiple databases, so you are saving resources there. Another thing is like common operations performed at the CDB level. So if you're trying to run certain common operations, you can perform on a CDB level, and that'll be applicable to all pluggable databases inside that. So and some examples are like a backup, high availability, upgrades, and that doesn't mean you do not have a granular control if you want. So another way of looking at this is the key benefits. So you minimize the capital expenditures because you're running more applications per server. You minimize OpEx because you can manage many as one. You can standardize procedures for managing these databases, manage agility, and that is because you can rapidly provision these databases. You have a great portability through pluggability, and multi-tenant architecture scales up really one-to-one with rack. So ease of adoption, application runs unchanged. So these two slides were from Oracle, but they kind of explain everything about multi-tenant. That's why I use them. So if you look at the multi-tenant architecture in the documentation, that's how it looks like. You have a CDB and you have these pluggable databases plugged in. You can have on a security wise, you can have a PDB administrator, you can have a CDB administrator, you can have a multiple PDB administrator for your multiple PDBs. So we already talked about it, and if I have to explain it in a physical terms, this the left side is your container database, which will have its own data files, control, redo, undo, temp, system, sysaux, and then you have a instance attached to this, and then you have a pluggable database attached to it. These pluggable databases will have their own data files. And how you create them? Simple. Create as a container. You can use a comma operator to create multiple pluggable databases. Here, like here, and then DBSA give you more options too. Right. So I said like it made very easy the cloning, and so for here I'm taking an example. If I'm trying to do a remote clone, so I have a two CDBs and I want to clone one pluggable database from CDB1 to CDB2. So this is the example here, and if you notice, I'm changing name also here. So here it was Anuj, and in CDB2 I'll create as Mohan. It's a 12.1 feature. You have to take it in a read-only mode. And run a simple create pluggable database command. Obviously, you have to take care of Indian formats and all. It runs over a database link. So the other ways to deploy a PDB is that it offers you a seed database, so you can always create a PDB based on that. And it's a pretty simple. All you need to care about is a file name convert, because you want to tell where you want to keep the data files. Okay, by default, all the PDB operations complete at the mount stage, so you have to manually open the database all the time. You notice that. Okay, if you have to do within the same CDB, then you don't even need a database link, right? And this is like a 12.1 example. So it's just a single command. Put that in read-only mode and create pluggable database Mohan from Anuj. And as I said, you have to open it manually. All pluggable database operations stops at the mount stage, unless you specifically define it to open it. There are ways. And as I said, it offers a unplug and plug capability. So I'll show you quickly here. You connect to the source CDB, shut down the source database, and like alter pluggable database close, and then you can unplug it. And what unplug is essentially, it controls all the information. It captures all the information in an XML file. And then if you do not need this at the source, then you can drop. If you do not, then you can keep it here. And then that was unplug operation, and then you connect to destination side. And remember, we created an XML file. So using that XML file, we can check plug compatibility to see if we can plug back in. And it will populate a view called PDB plugin violation. So you want to go and check, and if there is a violation, then you want to resolve it before you can plug back in. And the violations could be say, one example could be you have more components installed on the source and less component installed on the target. So okay, now we are 12.2. So 12.1, you have to take things in read-only mode or make database unavailable. 12.2 offered 12.2 offered to do a hot clone. That means your source database is still up and running and available for your application. So you do not need to take the database in read-only mode. And it's a simple command: create pluggable database, Mohan from Anuj, admin user. You define the password, you define the location where you want to keep the files. That's it. So that is PDB Hot Clone. And as I said, you have to open it manually. All the operations close at the mount stage. So and this one is a remote clone. So you're using a DB link. Everything else is same. Here I'm using a DB link, right? Okay, so before I move to new features like local undo, is there any question which we can answer?
There are no questions in the Q&A.
Okay, so I'll move on and you accumulate the questions. If there is any, then I'll take when there is a next break. All right. So the 12.2, there was a new feature introduced, local undo. If you remember my previous slide, I mentioned that the undo table space was sitting on a container side in the root container. So, but the local undo is, here is your undo table space based on my previous slide, right? But then new feature was introduced that you can create your local undo. That means you can create an undo table space for all these pluggable databases also, and that will give a lot of benefits, which I'll explain here quickly. And it was easy. You do a startup upgrade, alter database local undo on, shutdown immediate, and then startup. And it helps with PDB Flashback and PDB relocate. And I will talk to you about Flashback and relocate in following slides. So multi-tenant features, Flashback on a PDB label. It's a true Flashback, no auxiliary location required, need local undo enabled, which is a 12.2 feature. All you need to validate, first thing, that local undo is enabled. You need to check if Flashback is on, and that's it. So you close pluggable database and you flashback based on a timestamp. and then you open with the reset logs. So pretty smooth feature. Okay, 12.2 gave another option, another new feature, refreshable clone. So we talked about cloning database in cloning pluggable databases in previous slides. This is a refreshable clone. So excuse me. So you can create a clone and they can you can set a refresh mode, either manual or automatic. So here this is the command, create pluggable database, refresh mode this. And as soon as you put the refresh mode, then you're saying that it's a refreshable clone. And it will refresh from its source. So this one was the example for the manual, and the other one is example for the automatic. You can have any increment of minute. And you have a refreshable clone. So we talked about hot clone and we talked about refreshable clone. So that means we have a capability to clone a pluggable database while the source pluggable database is available to application. So there is no downtime required for hot cloning. And then we talked about a refreshable clone, where I can refresh a clone pluggable database from its source. So what they did is they clubbed these two functionality and created a PDB relocate, wherein you can live relocate a pluggable database, and that was available in 12.2. So all you need to do is create a database link between CDB1 and CDB2 and run a simple relocate command. Run PDB relocate between CDB1 and CDB2. It's a simple command and you can relocate your pluggable database. And here are some command level information, like you create a database link, then you run a simple relocate command. It's pretty straightforward feature. And the keyword is relocate. Okay, now we are going to 18C. Refreshable PDB switchover. So we talked about hot clone, refreshable clone, relocate, and now it's a PDB switchover. So now we have a look at this architecture. We are refreshing a PDB from CDB1 to CDB2, and another PDB I have which is getting refreshed from CDB2 to CDB1. Now let's suppose there is a situation that you have a performance issue on one of the CDB. So actually you can turn the direction. And the way you do it, alter pluggable database, refresh mode manual from this database line, switch over. So we had one PDB getting refreshed this side. Now we moved everything this side because we found that CDB2 was getting overloaded. And so we decided to, our CDB1 was getting overloaded. So we move all these refresh copies this side and maybe point some reporting this side. So use case could be anything, but this is the feature. So you can actually switch over the refreshes. And here is some command level information. So we will not read through the commands, but they're pretty self-explanatory. When you're reading it, you read it in a flow the way it is coming here in the slide, and it will start making sense. So the new feature, another new feature is hot clone. If you are using multi-tenant, you do hot clone in a data guard environment. So there was a problem because if you have a data guard, so you have a redo apply going on here, and if you do a hot clone, that means there will be a redo apply here, and potentially there will be a conflict. So in 18C, they came up with an enhanced integration with the data guard, and the way you do it in 18C is it's not fully automatic yet, but enhanced. So you create a self-referencing database link, and that will be replicated. Then you create a transient no standby pluggable database that will not be replicated because you're using standbys is equal to none clause. Then you create a cold clone of this transients cold clone here, and that will be replicated, right? Then you can drop this one and you replicated it. So this was the enhanced integration. In 18C, we got another new feature called Snapshot Carousel. And what Snapshot Carousel is, it will take a snapshot on a periodic time. It will support 8 copies of snapshot. It will help you with debugging date-specific problems. Someone dropped something, someone corrupt a table, you can restore point in time. It can store 8 copies. So once you demand for 9th copy, then it will delete the next one, the previous one. Okay, so we talked about that we can do a one as many operation if you are using on a CDB and PDB architecture, but the fleet management is a new feature which was introduced in 18C, where you can run one as many in a CDB word. So you run a command in one CDB and that will run on multiple CDBs. That's what is a CDB fleet management. So, and you have a concept of lead CDB and member CDB. Once you define a lead CDB and associated member CDBs, then you should be able to utilize this feature. SaaS applications, database service applications, that's where you use them in Oracle Cloud. And this is how you do. You set container CDB root, and then you set it as a lead CDB. So you define this as a lead CDB, and you can check using the SQL if a lead CDB is true or not. Sorry, right? So this is CDB fleet management. Now we came long way in the consolidation, and then we have a requirement that how do we manage memory components. So yes, that you can do that on a PDB level. So you can run all these parameters on a PDB level. You can do a PG aggregate limit, PG aggregate target, right? And the big part was it allows you to control IO also, which used to be only a Exadata specific feature. So you can control max IO ops and max MBPS also. 12.2 new feature, lockdown profiles. And this is something related with the security. I'll just quickly explain you what this feature is. So say you want to give a user alter system privilege, but because this user is entitled of doing a flush shared pool, but you do not want him to give anything else of the alter system. So the way you can do it, you create a profile called create a lockdown profile. You give the enable statement alter system with a clause flush shared pool, and then you pull back alter system. The clause will still remain, and then you assign this profile to this user, and that's it. So that was lockdown profile 12.2. Then 18C, they came up with a dynamic lockdown profile where you do not need a downtime or anything to enable it. It'll be instant enable. And excuse me. So if you set a lockdown on a CDB level, it will affect all the PDBs. If you do it on an application root, then it'll be on a root level, an application PDBs level. How you disable it. So if you set PDB underscore lockdown to null, then you disable it. And what all it can do, I'll just quickly go through. So here you see these are the all resources, and this is here this side you have your lockdown profiles like red, orange, and purple, and green says like that resource is available and cross is not available. So let's see. and what these resources are. So you can control Java, partitioning, network, OS, common schema access, CPU, IO ops, and SGA memory. So this one here, you enable everything, but the resource wise, you are giving less resources in the red. But here you were somewhat restrictive, but you're giving more resources. Here you are very restrictive, but giving a lot of resources. So this is just a matrix. It could you can have your own matrix, how you create your lockdown profiles, but this is how you create. Okay. 12.2 application container. So application container is if you have a small SaaS application and and you have like multiple copies of the application running on a different locations. So if you do one change in in your application, then you have to replicate those changes to all the remote locations. So that functionality can be eased out with the application container. The way you do it, you install your application on a application root, right? And then you create clone, and then you ship the clones to the remote locations to run. And once you have to do an update, you just run your update on your app root, and then the changes will be replicated to remote locations, and we'll just quickly talk about it how. So the way you create it, use as application container as a clause when you create your application root PDB. When you have to install your application, you will be using begin and end install clause. I'll show you how in exact commands. And when you have to synchronize it, you have to use the clause sync, right? So installation. I created a PDB as application container. So now it's an application container. I will open it manually, and I'll set that container because I may have more PDBs running in my CDB. So I'll set it that, okay, I won't point to application PDB here. Then I'll do installation. I'll say begin install, right? Application name, begin install, and application version. These all are customized things which I can do anything here. I have a control of like what name of my application will be, what will be the version here. But the keyword is begin install. You run your DDLs and DMLs and you complete the installation. Keyword is end install to complete the end of installation. Right now, I'll set the container again and I'll create a clone. So I created a clone here, PDB clone, right? And then when I have to do a sync, I'll connect to my clone and I'll run the sync command. So this is now I'll not get into the details, but if you have to upgrade your PDB application, then you can begin upgrade and end upgrade is the keyword to upgrade it, right? And here are some checks like before upgrade, you can check application version and upgrade. And I have the commands here also, so you can use all these, right? Like here I'm checking like what is my app version, and then I'm doing a upgrade or patch, and at the end I'll complete my end with the end upgrade and give it defined version. When I check my app version, I'll show me like this is the new version. So it's pretty straightforward, but very powerful feature if you have a use case. And then you can connect to your clone application PDB and run a sync. And once you run the sync, you check the application version, it will show you 2.5.0. Then there is another concept of proxy PDBs. So the app sync, the feature is only sync is within the same container. So you all you need to do is create a proxy PDB for your app root. So if you have your application clones are here, then you need to create a proxy PDB for app root from CD1 to CDB2. So there will be a proxy running here. And then this will become a local copy for this. So you can run your sync. 19C gave some, so that was the application container. Now, in 19C, you have a capability to run a PDB relocate using DBCA, and no DB link is required. Then you can do a remote clone using DBCA, and there is a nice article here from on Oracle base. So in 19C, you have a capability to ability to relocate PDB to another CDB using DBCA in SLN mode, automated PDB relocation for fleet patching, and then automatic database diagnostic monitoring, DDBM support for PDBs, PDB recovery catalog, and workload and capture. So if you're trying to use RAD, then you can use it on a PDB level. Here are some more documentation. So now you see it's very nice, a lot of videos in Oracle documentation, and you go to one place and you select what version you're looking for, and all the documentation is there. So with this, thank you very much. Thanks for your time, and I am ready to take any questions. I think I was in time.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anuj. Are there any questions for Anuj?
Yeah, and I'll encourage people, if you do not have a question, and if you remember anything that you really wanted to ask, you have my email address on the screen. I'll be happy to answer anything. If you do not have now, I can answer it afterwards too.
Okay. So thank you very much, Anuj, for being with us and for sharing your experiences. It was a great pleasure to have you here.
It's my pleasure. Thanks a lot, Pascal and Clemens. I'll be sending you the slides to you, so you have it in case someone needs it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah. If people wants to reach out to me for the slides, I'll be happy to share with them too.
Perfect.
All right. Thanks, you guys. Have a good evening.
Yeah. Same to you. Bye-bye.
Bye.